Good morning. Today we're going to make apple pie filling that you can can. These apples are from my tree. I've had this tree for many, many years. We get apples every year. I do not know what kind of variety they are. I forgot it. Didn't save any paperwork about it, and people ask me all the time, and I just don't know what they are. It is a very tart apple. They make excellent apple pie. I use them to make jams, but there is nothing better than your own apple pie filling. And it's what's great about it takes 2 quart jars to make 1 pie. All you got to do then is prepare your pie crust and dump in 2 of the quart jars, bake it, and you've got a pie. And quick as that. And you know what's in it. It doesn't have any fancy words that you can't pronounce. It's basically the apples, some lemon juice, cinnamon, nutmeg, and sugar. And that's it. And it's your pie from your tree. Great to give for gifts or just to have for a family dinner or just fix a pie for yourself for that matter. So let's get started. First thing we got to do is peel all these apples. This is the most daunting task, and I highly recommend that you get an apple peeler to do it. If you don't have an apple peeler, it's a lot more work. This just makes it quick and snappy, and you're done in no time. It takes about 15 to 20 pounds of apples to do 1 batch is what I'm going to do, which is 7 quarts. So get yourself some apples and let's get started. To do the peeler, you just push it in through the core and you spin, and it's going to peel and core and cut the apple slices all at one time. Really slick. You might have some pieces of peeling left over. I don't really get too excited about that. You pull the apple off. Normally the core stays there, but whatever. And then I'll cut off any bad spots. I slice them, and I'm putting them into what this is a gallon of water with a half a cup of lemon juice. This is to keep the apples from discoloring so bad. That one still had a bit of seed left on it, so I just cut that off. And then I've got a container here on the floor where I'm keeping the peelings and the scraps. Some people use the leftovers to make puddings or put into breads. We have hogs, so I give them to the hogs and they love it. You always heard about pork with apple. Well, I'm feeding them from the inside out. So I'm going to get these apples peeled, and we'll get back to you and take it from there. Give me a few minutes. It'll take me about a half hour. Okay, as you can see, we've got all the apples peeled, and now the next step is to blanch them. What you want to do is blanch them in boiling water for 1 minute. And this stops any enzyme activity with them and just makes the fruit much fresher. So I'm going to put a couple scoops in there and get the timer going and blanch them for one minute. Start that. So as these get done, you're going to put them in a bowl and keep them covered with a towel and keep them warm until all of them are done, and then you're ready to start mixing up the sauce. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but I do have my jars processing in my dishwasher. That's what I use to sanitize the jars. It works great for me. I've done it that way for many, many years. You have to synchronize everything though, so that the timing is such that your jar's finished when you're ready to actually put your filling in them. Because you want your jars to stay hot, otherwise 1 minute. I'm going to stop that, take them out, put them in this pan to cool, like I said, and get the rest of them done. You'll notice that they discolored a little bit, and that's perfectly normal. When you get them mixed up with all of the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the sauce, you're not going to notice that at all. I have yet to find anything that keeps them perfect. Okay, so that's that. We're going to go on to the next one, and I'll get all these blanched. Okay, we've got all the apples blanched, and they're over there in the bowl cooling with a towel on them. So it's time to get the sauce together. So things are starting to come together. I need to start moving a little fast. This is 5½ cups of sugar. I'm going to add that. You're going to add 1½ cups of Clear Jell. And this is the cooked type, not the instant type. Do not use cornstarch. Do not use Sure Jell. Use Clear Jell, and it's got to be the cooked type. Okay? Then you're going to add, I want to stir this up a little bit. I'm going to blend this together real good. I'm going to add a tablespoon of cinnamon, And I also use the real cinnamon. Be careful what kind of cinnamon you buy. Tablespoon of cinnamon. A teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Put it in there. I'm going to whisk that all together really, really good. And then I'll add the apple juice and water. Okay, so now the apple juice, and this is apple juice that came from my apples. I don't use the canned kind or the bottle kind. Anybody that knows me knows I like to do everything from scratch. You're also going to add 2½ cups of water, and then you're going to add a ½ cup of lemon juice. And stir this together really well, get rid of all the lumps, and it's going to go to the stove and cook until it thickens. And then we'll add the apples to it, and we're ready to put in the jars. That's all there is to it. I've got the sauce on the stove cooking. You want to keep stirring it so that it doesn't stick, because it will set up on you pretty quick. It's only been cooking for about 10 minutes, and you want to keep it on there until it starts thickening. So we're going to continue with that, and like I said, keep a close eye on it so it doesn't stick. Okay, it's starting to thicken up here pretty good. I'm going to turn the fire off. Give it a stir here, let it boil really good for about a minute. See how thick it's got? I have a big commercial stove that gets very hot, so your stove at home may not do it quite that fast. Okay, so we're going to dump the apples in it. Got the apples in, so then you're going to just quickly stir them up in the sauce. Get them well coated where you start putting them in your jars. Smells wonderful. I wish you could smell it. That's all I can do to keep from eating it right now. But you see what I mean? If your apples get a little bit discolored with the coloring, the caramel color of your filling, it doesn't really matter. Get down in there. Once they're all stirred together, everything's coated well, it's time to put in the jars, which are finished. So I'll get those jars out and set up, start filling them and putting them in the canner. I do need to mention that I've also had my lids preparing. You want to boil your lids on water for at least 10 minutes so that they get a good seal. Okay, that looks good. That's ready to go. And we're going to start filling jars. Got my hot jars out of the dishwasher ready to go. Have my jar filler. Everything was put in the dishwasher together to be sanitized. So we're going to quickly start filling the jars. And you want to fill them to within about 1 inch from the top. If you get them too full, they will boil up over you and make a mess and possibly not seal. So you fill the jars, working as quickly as you can. And I didn't get all my jars out of the dishwasher at the same time because I don't want them to cool down too much. Like I said, you want to keep them as hot as possible. Kind of got to beat it down there. It's a little bit thick. And I'm going to go ahead and get that one sealed up. This is a bubble remover. You run it down the sides of your jars to try to get rid of the air as much as possible and pack everything down. This is going to need some more in it. So I'll probably just use the spoon to top it off. Push it down in there. That's just about full enough. You want to take a clean cloth and wipe the rim of the jar so there's nothing up there to keep it from sealing. Make sure it's very, very clean. Use your pot or lid lifter. Take a lid out of your boiling water, set it down, add a ring, and you just hand tighten it. Don't get crazy with it. And put it in the canner. So I'm going to get the rest of those done, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the canner, and we'll talk about the processing itself. Okay, as you can see, I've got all 7 jars filled. They're placed in the canner. So now what you're going to do is you're going to lower them down very carefully into the hot water and let it sink to the bottom. And you want to make sure that your water covers your lids by at least an inch, inch and a half. If not, you will not get the correct pressure that's needed to safely seal the jars. So what I like to do is take a wooden spoon, and I always put it in there and check the depth of the water, and this one's a good 2 inches underneath, so we're good to go. So basically now, you put the lid on the pan, you turn up the heat, and you wait to reach a full rolling boil, and then once it hits a rolling boil, you time it, and it's 25 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and we'll show you the finished project here very shortly. Here we have the canner going at a full rolling boil. You see what I mean? I just tilted the lid a little bit so you could see it, but it's got to be a full boil. You don't want it just warm. And the timer's been started, and it's 25 minutes, and then we'll get them out of the water and let them start to cool down. Okay, it's been 25 minutes. So you turn the fire off, and we're going to get the jars out. Put me some gloves on here because this is very, very hot. You've got to be really careful. Get that off of there. And it is, like I said, super hot. So you want to very carefully lift the rack out. And it's heavy. Dang it, dang it, dang it. Hot, hot, hot. Out and set on the edge of the pan. Some people recommend that you leave the jar setting there for 5 minutes. By the time I get things around, it's usually that, but mostly I just get them on out. So I have my jar lifter here, and I'm going to take them out of the rack very carefully and sit them on a towel. You might hear some of them pop during this process as they're sealing, and actually that's what you are looking for. Don't take them all off the same side either. It'll throw your rack out of balance and tip it over just like I did there just a minute ago. They look really good. So these sit now for 24 hours before you mess with them, and then you'll come back after 24 hours, wipe them off, check the seals, date them, which is very important, and then they're ready to go up to the house in the pantry. Okay, so that's basically it on how to make your own apple pie filling. I did want to show you I have some left over, so my husband's going to get lucky tonight. He gets a fresh pie. I also wanted to mention that these classes these videos are all taken in my barn kitchen out on our farm. I've had several people ask about classes for canning, and I thought these videos would suffice for that. If there's anybody that is interested in canning classes, just get with me and we'll see what we can work out. But I do everything out here in the barn kitchen. I love it. I used to do all my canning in the house, and I do so much I kind of was addicted. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and enjoy your pie.